the one that I think it was Kaz that translated it
from
Japan. Yeah.
Nikkei.
It was saying things like the movie was probably more honest than a Japanese filmmaker would be, because it was objectively looking at Japan during the years that the film runs from, which is about 1945 until present day. And Tatsumi's stories have the same thing. They're much more honest about the society which he is living in and was over those years, in facing the things that most everyone else would gloss over and say that's not part of our society. So he's digging down into the darker side of it and showing it for everyone to see. And a lot of folks find that very uncomfortable.
But yeah, people like in the 60s, like Mishima and all that, going for this sort of comics, which Kikika, right? I mean, something different from manga. And I think there was this great movement that happened back in the late 60s, right? And I remember I was talking to Tatsumi, and he says, but you know, really in Japan, I am a dinosaur. You know, because every year, you have something like 2 million new manga titles coming out. And Japan is the only country in the whole world where you can still buy comics as disposable reading material. I mean, most of the shops here is like to buy a Tatsumi comics like $35, and the graphic novels, everything's so high-end. When I was a kid, you go to the mama store, you buy about 30 cents a Spider-Man comic, all that's gone. But in Japan, it's still there. It's this, you know, huge sort of market for comic books. We were fortunate also to sell most of Europe. I mean, definitely the first ones bought it were the Belgians, right, because of Tintin.
Yeah.
So the film, after Singapore, will open in Hong Kong through the Echo chain. Echo, having produced Crouching Tiger, moves on to Canada for release. And Korea, but with the Japanese, there is a company that's interested in the film, and it's this Sujuku company, okay, which did the Ozu movies. It's got a very nice mountain. So Tatsumi likes this company because it's really old, but it's just to ink the deal. The film will make its Asian festival premiere in Busan, and then after that in Tokyo. I wanted to open in Japan in quite a big way because of Tatsumi, because I just feel if the younger generation now were to read his comics, I'm sure they'd be able to relate.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And the other thing that's somewhat good about Japan at this point in time is that, I think, not really that good, but good for the film, is that it's an aging population. You know, and everything you see coming out of Japan these days that make good money is during like the Showa era. Okay? And the agent, you know, get a 50% rebate, discount, you know. When you look at most countries in the world, so it's 70% teenagers at the box office. In Japan, 40% are old guys over 55. Yeah. Interesting, but also quite sad, because when you see Tatsumi, right, one of the first stories that we have in the film is called Hell, and it's the Hiroshima bombing. I remember when I got that SMS from a friend that Japan was going through this massive earthquake. It's kind of scary, and then the first thing I did was I SMS Masato and said, you know, is Sensei all right? And when it was happening, he was actually drawing that time. You know? Went under the table with a wife, and it's, I mean, I feel like, I felt kind of strange, like, okay, this story that starts off and then you've got this thing going on, and then the day before, someone saw me wearing a t-shirt and went, Tsunami. Right? Because if you look at this, Tatsumi, so we were as Tsunami, right? But anyways, for Sensei, he eventually did a drawing, which I think is an incredible drawing, because a lot of people would email him and ask him, you know, how are you? Are you okay? And what he drew, right? It's amazing. This guy's a genius. Himself drawing away at his artist table, and around him is the earthquake. So even if there's an earthquake, even if there's going to be real activity, sort of radioactive materials going on, he will still be drawing. And it's almost like, you know, Johnny Walker, it's like, still walking.
Yeah.
And this drawing that he did, and he also did a drawing for the New York Times, which is incredible, you know. And I mean, this is really seriously a genius, this guy. And a lot of people say, look, is he like his characters? Is he like this or that? No, he's not. He's just got an incredible, vivid imagination, right? And of course, you know, people say, oh, this guy's perverted, he's dark, he's this and that, but there are so many layers to his works. And I'm also happy because there's this publisher in Singapore who's interested to actually publish some of Tatsumi stories that are not translated into English. And recently, this Fuji man friend of mine, Masato, came back from Turkey to Singapore with all the original artwork, right, from the 70s period. And this he hasn't even shown the Canadian competition yet. And it's genius, man. I mean, you look at the artwork and then with the transparencies and the Japanese characters, and the sticky tapes all coming out. It's like, my God, you know, and Paul is like, can we exhibit this? You know, it's and okay, deep down I feel like with this film, hopefully there'll be some sort of a renewal for Yoshio Tatsumi, and I want that to happen in Japan.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
It would be so wonderful.
Because the youth, I really feel they're so disengaged from
Correct.
the past. They're so obsessed